What's good, John? My name is Open Book. This is my partner.
Hey guys, welcome back to TruSpace.
Yup. And Mercury is in Sagittarius now. So let's talk about what that is going to mean for all of us and what are the best way that we can navigate through this so that we can, because we're dealing with Mercury. So we all want to keep that clarity of mind, and the Mercury is in its detriment. Mercury has a harder time dealing with Sagittarius, but because of that difficulty, it can be so rewarding. So kind of knowing what's gonna come and hit us with Mercury and Sagittarius is gonna help us keep that mental clarity, keep our mind moving with the currents that are around us so that we don't slip up on that intellectual level and that when we communicate, we are heard, which is very important. So, yeah, how would you break down Mercury and Sagittarius and what's going to happen to all of us?
So we understand what Mercury represents. It deals with our mind, the way we think, the way we analyze, the way we communicate, and things like that. I'll go as far as also deals with how we understand micro reality, since it's ruled by Virgo, but also Gemini. And these signs are opposite the broader signs, Pisces and Sagittarius. These are the higher, broader ways of understanding things, the macro, while Gemini and Virgo deal with the micro. So Mercury itself, it deals this hermetic nature of understanding things, and creating logic, creating ideas, and coming up with and things like that, spaceships to understand the broader space that we are in. But for you to be able to fill in this broader space, you need to come up with a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, and things like that. But it's very hard here, like Cici was saying, with Mercury being debilitated, it's harder for it to fill this broad space with thoughts and ideas. And the thoughts, the type of thoughts and ideas here in Sagittarius it demands to be adaptable to yourself and other people ways of seeing and feeling. So this is almost you taking small collections of flames, small way of seeing and feeling of everybody, creating almost like a kaleidoscope, a collective way of seeing. This is why Sagittarius deal with I see, but it's gonna be hard for you to see with Mercury. This is your you have to come up with your own way of thinking about this energy essentially.
I love that kaleidoscope reference because that's what it is. That's Mercury and Sagittarius for real, where there's all of these broad possibilities, and you kind of have to have a different picture, be able to see the multiple big pictures.
Yeah, Mercury in Sagittarius, this is almost like the energy of becoming a Jew. This guy is trying to write the word of God through understanding the higher natures of things, the movement of the stars and things like that. But it's very hard for him. He has to put it, he has this limitation of paper and the micro things to pin it down with different sigils and symbols, even to the point that we even might tell him, you're trying to be God, you're trying to like fake the energy or something like that.
Oh wow, I get what you mean. Like you do one story about the sun, but you feel like you still didn't do the sun justice, so you do another story about
Exactly.
the sun,
So in the
to show a different perspective, or and then you do another. So we have Jacob and the 12 tribes of Israel. We have
exactly.
then we have Jesus. And then we have all of the other sun references. Solomon, soul, man, and all of these different solar deity, King David
That
going through the solar story.
That's what I mean by like having all these thoughts and ideas to fill in the all this space, but it's hard for him.
100%, 100%. And you can see the overwhelmingness and how Mercury can be in detriment within
Mm.
that
Eh,
type of broad scope.
mhm.
Imagine trying to describe what you're seeing in a kaleidoscope. Like
You
that's
sound
kind
like
of
you're on mushrooms. You sound like you're on mushrooms.
exactly. Exactly. When what you're seeing could be true, but and it is true, like where you're looking at an image, like even being like literal, you're looking at an image, but it's being distorted by a kaleidoscope. But you still know that you're looking at, say, you're looking at a person. You still know it's a person, but you're just seeing
Mm,
this person being distorted at, but you know that it's a person. You're just seeing different perspectives of it.
mm,
And that could be overwhelming, but it also gives you the reward of not being pinned down into a narrow point of view, but you see the multitude of possibilities of things that can happen
mm,
for that being acted out in life, or an example of life. Now
mm,
you're not narrow-minded to say a specific ideology. Maybe you're heavy on the left or you're heavy on the right, politically, democratically, But say with Mercury and Sagittarius, with that level of openness, you'll be start able to understand the mentalities of people that are on the other side, and notice aspects of you that can correlate with them, because your mind is into a broader space. Maybe you stop talking about certain polarizing topics, and then you start talking about, say, taxes. Everybody wants low taxes. Everybody can, agree on certain levels of how a society should be run, but it's when you hyperfixate on the polarizing ones, aka having a narrower view, which would be more so dominated by Gemini. Look at Donald Trump being a Gemini. He's polarizing as hell. And it's not necessarily that he's wrong, it's just that he knows exactly how to pinpoint one thing, and exploit one thing, and use one thing. He's a master communicator, that Gemini energy. So because of that narrowing of focus, he puts everybody else in that Gemini energy, and everybody else wants to talk about him and stuff like that. So like he brings that out. But whereas a Sagittarius, you know, that type of energy, it's different. It's so broad. They're not as polarizing. This is Mother Teresa type of energy. This is, your
Sadhguru.
your Sadhguru, your Buddha, where you don't have to be Buddhist, and you don't have to go and change into a robe and shit like that, but you could still appreciate a nigga out there being holy or some shit like that, or a nigga, being nice, and preaching forgiveness and shit like that. That Jesus spirit, you don't have to go and do it yourself. You don't feel obligated to either, but maybe he inspires you, shows you optimism, or broadens your perspective of what a world can be. You know what I mean? That's how we can start to utilize Mercury and Sagittarius, but it can feel overwhelming. Like, look at that, say, I'm saying that you can appreciate that, but what if you're thrusted into India or some Buddhist community, and you're surrounded by Buddhists? It could be overwhelming, right? It's a culture shock, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
mentalities that you dealt with, and now you're into this vast world of, say, for example, Buddhism, just for this example. And it can be intimidating because you don't know anything about this world. But little do you know that the more you explore, the more you stay open to it, the less you try and retreat to a narrower view and try and put them into a box and try and open your mind up to that experience. You'll realize the reward that lies beyond, and you become more of an expansive person, and you have more of an expansive mind. So that's how we can get the best out of this Mercury in Sagittarius.
100%. Like Mercury Sagittarius could be very restless here energy, because it's putting your mind and your way of thinking through like new experiences, which is gonna expand your way of thinking. And I feel like Mercury Sagittarius feel like say intellectual heights, versus say Mercury and Scorpio deal more like intellectual like depth. When I say like height, it means like for you to be able to understand things broadly and communicate broad ideas, you can't add so much intellect, can't add so much words. It's almost like you need enough words to paint the picture to almost capture it. And if you add any more, if you add too much Mercury, like Virgos and Gemini, they dilute the picture. It's too logical and things like that. So Mercury, you want to reach here and say intellectual heights of loosen up almost the Mercurian structure of logic and learn to communicate with like the way Sagittarius likes to communicate and things like that. And not get trapped in the Mercury energy. But obviously, you need to utilize it. You need to give this broad image, a broad understanding, and a symbol, something like that.
And a lot of people run away from the larger questions of life to their own detriment, even though it's not a question that you're going to get an immediate answer to. Sometimes it takes a while, but sometimes you go through an experience. I mean, you may not get meaning from 10 years down the line, later on down the line. Maybe even this transit, you're getting information that it may not be useful to you now because it's pertaining to something broad or to a larger question, but later on in life it's going to be one of those vital puzzle pieces that helps make that mental connection for you to be able to see the big picture. Like for me, even I noticed throughout my life, where I'm a Scorpio, but right now my progressed sun is like 9 degrees. My progressed sun is on top of my natal moon right now, which is kind of crazy, isn't it? Like that time of life, and then my moon and Pluto is there together, which is kind of crazy. And my natal moon in Sagittarius is in the fifth house, and I had a baby last year. So I wonder if that, and that transformed my life, and then it's the moon and stuff like that. So I wonder if that's how it played out. But, anyways, throughout my life, as that progressed sun started going deeper into Sagittarius, I started noticing, like say when I was 16, I was a rapper and nobody could tell me anything different. Like that's what I was, passionate about. And a lot of my emotion was concentrated within one thing. But say as things progressed, I started learning about nutrition. I went through the higher learning of Sagittarius, and then you started learning about astrology, and then these are entire worlds within itself. So before I
Mm.
started out with a very simple Gemini type of mindset, just a rapper, words with it, but then even, rapping, even how it set my mind and the things that it made me think about, how it broke down words, made me start to understand patterns. And then I started looking at nutrition and astrology and history and a whole bunch of stuff. And then now I can't call myself a rapper anymore. I don't even know what to call myself. I don't even know what I do anymore. It's too much. And then it's very overwhelming. It's too much interest. Like sometimes I wish I was only interested in rap, or I was only interested in astrology, just to simplify things, just to, but that's Sagittarius energy. But even with my life right now, I feel like there's a lot to learn through that multitude of interests, because they kind of do overlap or intertwine. And living a life where you're trying to balance out multiple interests, or find the common link between everything. You sit and watch how I combine astrology, nutrition, a rap, it all into one profession, and then I create one new profession where somehow I'm giving niggas health advice as I'm rapping about the stars, like some shit like that, you know what I mean, some shit like that. But um, that's the potential height, and imagine the level of intellect that you can get when you can able to juggle. Like look at what do you call them, polymaths, like where they can have
Yeah.
multiple disciplines, when they could do. That's a hard thing to do, but
Mm.
look at the reward when you can do that,
Mm.
so that's
Mm.
something we can look through when we experience some of those struggles of Mercury and Sagittarius, aka, I think the biggest downfall, and my Mercury is like 29 degrees Scorpio. So as it progressed and went into Sagittarius, and one thing I noticed my whole life is that I always put my foot in my mouth, where even if I was speaking the truth, the way I said it, I said it wrong, like I could have left out a word or two or something like that. And you put your foot in your mouth, or, you speak too much. You speak too much and you kind of distort certain basic truths.
Yeah.
You, you know,
With the Sagittarius energy, we should definitely watch out from the preachy energy. Like the preaching, like I know how the Pope became the Pope, why he even got lost in the energy of preaching. Because I'm a Sagittarius ascendant too. We get lost in preaching and the whole philosophical energy, yo.
real shit. It's like the
Yeah,
Lathani. Like we could talk
yeah,
about
yeah. But
the
like,
Lathani in
yeah,
Infinite.
but sometimes we do exaggerate things, not necessarily to lie about them, but sometimes to add to the picture more. That's what I feel like too.
Yeah, 100%. one
This is
hundred
what
percent.
this
The
is what like
boast, the gas-like nature of Jupiter.
the same like say in the Bible when they speak about Abraham got to sacrifice his son. Most names be like, oh, that is too extreme. Why would you put that in a book? But like they had to paint the picture to almost to derive a point.
Yeah, yeah. I get what you mean of how strong the faith was, they needed to show something. Yeah, 100%. It had to be tested.
Mm-hmm.
100%. And same thing with your mind, where your mind has to be tested with how much faith that you would have. And now, say maybe before, when things were a little bit more narrower, or not as combined and mixed and mingled, you could say that you had this level of intellect, or that you can think like this, or you thought you had this level of mind, but now you're forced to juggle it all together now, and now it's a different story now. So there's definitely that learning curve, and there is value in it. So don't get too frustrated when you're dealing with an answer or a question that doesn't have an immediate answer this transit. This is the philosopher fucking transit, where you have to turn your mind into the philosopher mind and ask, what does this mean? What is this purpose within my life, instead of immediately reacting, you know? And really watch out for putting your foot in your mouth, because you could be like, what does this mean, or what is the purpose of this, when you're talking about your girlfriend, or what you want to order at the store, or some shit, like what you try to get at the end of the day. She's not trying to get into no philosophical conversation, right at that point. So don't be going blaming no Mercury and Sagittarius, at that point. But those are the influences that can start bringing about. So you can start watching, because you start to philosophize things that don't need a
Yeah.
philosophy, don't need
Yeah.
no philosophy. It just is
God
what it is. It just
God,
is what
God
it
is
is.
God is not involved in everything in your life whatsoever. Work is just work. Fitness is just fitness. You can't. Me as a Sagittarius ascendant, sometimes I make that mistake. I personalize God too much into my own life. I was.
Yo, me too, bro. I'm like, yo, God made me broke, yo. I'm like, God's
Eh,
trying to teach me something. And I'm like, no, you just lazy, bro.
Yo,
You
a
just lazy.
hundred percent, 100%. That's a dangerous energy. Sometimes it puts you in like in a good place. Sometimes you use it as a demon, yo.
Exactly. And you have to be able to teeter the line. And that's a long-term thing, but it's a valuable, it's a reward one at the end of the day. 100%. 100%. So yeah. That'll be good for Mercury. You think that's good enough?
That's perfect. Yeah,
Good enough. Mercury and Sagittarius. Yeah, that's perfect. That was perfect. Perfect timing.